The Young Mind Awards are now accepting entries for its 2015 campaign to recognize the outstanding achievements of teachers, students, and schools in science, technology, engineering, and math. Entrants can win up to $5,000. For more information and to submit an entry, visit youngmindawards.com. Young minds are our future. It's about time we celebrate them.
The goal of Students to Science is to inspire, motivate, and educate K through 12 students to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. Here they can come to our Technology Center in East Hanover, New Jersey, which is a 10,000 square foot facility, and run experiments on millions of dollars worth of analytical instrumentation. We've really focused on underrepresented kids from areas that they don't know anything about chemistry. They don't know what career opportunities they are. And so I really have a personal interest in educating those kids to the opportunities that are out there for them. So that's personally why I devote my time to this.
So I started at Students to Science about 6 months after I retired. I had actually in 1 week 2 different friends who mentioned the place, and I had done a lot of things with teachers while I was still working in the pharmaceutical industry, and this was a way to transition into doing education without being a teacher, which is what I wanted. I personally didn't want all the paperwork and things having to do with that, but educating kids on science was very important to me. To be able to get them to think about science related to the world around them was something that I think is important.
A typical day here at the Students to Science Technology Center starts between 8:30 and 9 o'clock in the morning. Students arrive by bus. They're broken up into 4 teams, and they stay in those teams for the entire day. So in the morning when they first get here, we give them a brief introduction on the experiments that they'll be running or the challenges that they'll be faced with for that day. We give them a safety overview to point out the hazards that are in a real laboratory and the precautions that they need to take. And then we turn them loose and put them into the laboratory. And once they walk into the laboratory, there are 4 stations set up in the laboratory, and each team will occupy a station, be presented with more detailed information about the challenge that they're going to do, and they have about an hour to work on that challenge. They'll then rotate to the next challenge, so they'll do 2 in the morning session. They'll take a break at lunch, and then we'll do some type of entertaining challenge. Science related, might be an engineering challenge, it might be a game that we play called Science Cubed, but something for the kids to loosen up a little bit and have an enjoyable time. But it's applying what they learned in the morning session to some problem that they'll be faced with even at lunch. They'll go back in the lab, do 2 more experiments, and then between 2 and 2:30 they'll get on the bus and head home. So they're here for a full day.
The theme of today is solutions and mixtures, so they're doing 4 experiments today. The first one has to do with sunscreen, and they're going to develop a sunscreen and compare it to the commercial brands. They're doing an acid-base titration, which means they're looking at Tums, which is an antacid, and figuring out how much is in there based on titrating acid into the solution. The last one has to do with hot and cold, so they're looking at how hot pads and ice packs are made. And the last one has to do with recycling in plastics, and they're figuring out if certain plastics can be used to make recycled CD cases. We couldn't run without volunteers. We get volunteers from community at large. Some are retired scientists, others are scientists in transition, and others are educators or people who just really think that having kids exposed to science is really important.
What we did was we designed this program with the strong emphasis on inspiring and motivating kids to want to pursue careers in science. And so we try to catch them early with our virtual laboratory, so elementary school kids, to get them fired up about science. And then in the middle school, we want them here where they can actually see and touch the instruments that they'd be using, solve the problems that they would be being paid to solve, okay, and understanding what career opportunities there are for them.
My favorite part is being with the kids and seeing all the different aspects of what they can and can't do, and just see them get excited about doing science instead of just learning about it and hearing about it, that they can actually get their hands dirty and get into the lab.
We've been doing this now for, this is our 6th academic year. We've had close to 10,000 kids go through the program. And as I've said, we really want to inspire and motivate. And one kid in particular, kid from Patterson, big kid, football player, didn't show a lot of interest in being here. So in the lunch break, I asked him, a couple questions about the morning session, and asked him what would get him inspired, what would excite him. And back then we were playing a game called Jeopardy, and he says, "I want to run Jeopardy." And I said, "You want to run Jeopardy?" I said, "Well, it's pretty tricky." And he goes, "I can do it." And so we let him run Jeopardy, and he did a fantastic job. I later learned that he was a CD student. From that point forward, from the day he ran Jeopardy, he's been on the honor roll ever since. And this year he graduates as a senior, and he'll be going off to college, and he'll be going off to study chemistry.